you're here.
We're down to the wire, folks. The last day, I can hardly believe it. Everything has been going so nicely, so smoothly. It's amazing. That only happens because there's a lot of people greasing the skids and working on our behalf. And I refer specifically to all the wonderful Peace Corps volunteers who set this thing up and made it happen. They were the ones who pulled together the artisan fair. They were the ones who've been handling all the registration, all the hospitality issues, answering lots of questions. All the handouts in your folder were prepared by volunteers. And believe me, it's just a myriad of details, and they handled so many of them. It's just been wonderful. And I want to thank the Peace Corps administration. I don't see anybody from that organization in the room, but they have made it possible. Art is there. There's my man. Art made this happen, and Romeo is there. Now, as a good teacher trainer, we're going to review yesterday's notes. Does anybody remember the big word we learned yesterday? Decimo, vigésimo, trigésimo, cuadrigésimo, quinquagésimo. 50th anniversary. That's not a word you're going to use very often. I also wanted to recognize, is Sabrina around? Is Sabrina still in the Capitol? Sabrina Marquez? I have not met that young lady, and she is the graphic artist who finalized our logo and made it look so fantastic. Our group came up with the design, what we wanted. She slapped that 50 on there, which really, in my mind, really dressed it up. So, tell Sabrina I was trying to give her a big compliment this morning, okay? And I wanted to recognize Dr. Wiarda, but I don't think he's here. Howard Wiarda was in town for the Fungrode conference a couple of days ago, and he is one of the few American scholars in academia who's been writing about the Dominican Republic since the 60s. When I was a grad student, I couldn't find any literature at all except things written by Howard Wiarda. Today there's other scholars, one of whom is in our midst, but he was here for a couple of days of our conference, and I just wanted to give him a heads up, a shout out. Okay, the purpose of today's session is to introduce you a bit formally to the three RPCV groups that are affiliated and continue to support activities in the Dominican Republic with individuals, with groups, and with Peace Corps. And those three groups will be speaking this morning briefly, providing an overview of who they are and what they do. And it's a kind of a irony of history that there are three groups, all RPCVs related to the DR. It's just a function of when groups were started. And it's confusing, and we always get a lot of questions about why are there three groups and why aren't you all together, and bastante confuso. So this morning we're going to hear from the representative of the Andres Hernandez Foundation, the Fondo Quisqueya, and Friends of the DR. And I'd like to start that out this morning. Oh no, wait, I have some announcements. Is Selena here? Here she is. Selena has some announcements.
I just have quick announcements about excursions. They're trying to lock everything up, so they need everybody to sign up. They're going to close sign-ups at 11:30 because your wonderful plan tour operators, your viaje operators, they need to get all the final details together. So that's until 11:30 a.m. right here in the foyer on the opposite side, okay? Go speak with either Gabby or Alana. If you had a travel inquiry of any type, please return to the table. They have researched these answers. So if they said at the time, you know, I don't know the answer to this, they have researched, they know all those answers, so please go back and get your answers. And finally, there's two people that need to go back to the excursion table, Mr. Jim Radloff and Sherry Techner. If you could go back and speak with them. That's it. Thanks.
Is Sherry in the room? Or Jim? If one of you sees either of those individuals, please tell them that they need to follow up with registration. Okay. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jess Stone. He is one of the people here from DR1, the very first group that arrived in 1962. And he is one of the founders of the Andres Hernandez Foundation, and he will speak to us and provide an overview of what that organization does and its purpose. Jess.
Good morning. For those who know me, I used to be a teacher. And so your homework for tomorrow is to be able to work in the word sincladesimo into your conversation daily from here on out. Especially at home. The Andy Fund is really the second oldest fund, although people don't realize it. We were organized with really two purposes. The first purpose was to call attention to the work of Andres Hernandez, the first director of the Peace Corps, who really had a very tremendous impact on our lives. The second was, came out of a realization that I had that in every successful Peace Corps project, the reason why it succeeded was that for some reason, some way, a Dominican emerged forth as a leader, as a guy who, or woman who would help push people in their community into doing something that was valuable, altruistic, and beneficial for them all, without lighting the pot. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to call attention to the local, grassroots, altruistic, non-profit-making leader who brings forth progress for his community or her community and betters their lives. The very first recipient of the Andres Hernandez Foundation Prize was Ramon Guerrero. I met Ramon in 1964. Since 1964, he has been working with various Peace Corps volunteers. I was only one of the first that he met and helped. But he's working still today. He's still alive. And he has mastered various things about how to be a better farmer, how to build better houses. And he's just pushing his limits of his ability further and further, so he's really a very universal man. He was our first recipient. And you all met the current recipient, a lady who is equally very dynamic and important in her community. She is the contact person for all outside people who come in to help. They look at her first because she knows what's happening on the ground. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to call attention to those leaders who help out their communities without the expectation of being paid. This is what Andy did. In the future, since truth be told, our contributing base for the prize is shrinking. Why? We're dying. We're getting old. And we can't last forever. And so while we've tried to make the fund self-supporting thus far, in the future, we want to make sure that the fund is used wisely and purposefully. And so one of the things we're really considering right now is going in with a new school in Dahabon, and you all realize what Dahabon economically and socially is, to help improve a school that would be a very broad, wide-based educational system, all the way from grades 1 through high school and college, and also vocational school. So we are considering joining that school in some manner, and they've said that right now we want to name the library that they're building the Andres Hernandez Library. So let me invite you to support their library in any way possible, as well as this money, and it's in Dajabon. So I think the thing is for this to do, Loyo, the Dajabon, and so the city of Dajabon, they'll find their way. Thank you for your help. I want to thank all the people who contributed to the annual film over the years. Your support has been very meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. And I see a couple of faces in the room. I know there's some hardcore supporters of the Andy group. It's a small group, as Jess said, it's beginning to dwindle because there's many people that, after the first 7 groups, who did not serve under Andy and therefore don't know who he is. But they have a very worthwhile purpose in honoring him. The next group that we want to focus on is our sister organization, Fondo Quisqueya. You'll hear their mission and purpose, and for that discussion I'd like to call on a long-time activist in Fondo Q. He's had various titles, served as president and treasurer, and speaking to us this morning is Lou Farrell.
Good morning. I thought I would do a couple of housekeeping things first. Fondo Quisqueya will be having 2 workshops today in which you may be interested. We're going to have 3 becarios talk about the grants that they received and how they used them. And I think you'll find it very interesting. So you can't tell that necessarily on your sheet because for Friday it does give the 6 or 5 that are available, but then it says continue. Well, what they mean is they'll be done again. That's true for all of the ones that are listed. I guess it's 6 or 7. So when you're choosing to workshops you want to go, let's say there are 2 that you want to go, you can go to one of them at 11:15 and the other at 12, even though it doesn't quite say that. Another thing, I don't know if you found it in your conference package, but there's a pledge card. And John Epler is going to talk about it, but it sets out one of the ways that you can give both to Fondo Quisqueya projects and to Friends of the DR projects. It took me 2 times to find it in the package, so I thought that perhaps you didn't either. I think they're going to pass it out again later on today. Number 3, if you're more interested about Fondo Quisqueya, there is a 2-pager that talks about our history and lists a lot of the grants and scholarships that we've done. And our most recent newsletter, if you're interested in it, is on the table in the exhibit area. If you go out here and go right, you can pick up a copy of that. Having got those things done, Fondo Quisqueya was founded in 1987 on the 25th anniversary of Peace Corps in the DR. The year before, many of us who had been Peace Corps volunteers attended the International U.S. Peace Corps reunion in Washington, D.C. At that time, we walked over to Arlington Cemetery. There's a memorial for Peace Corps volunteers who have passed away, including Dave Larson in my group. Natalie Woodward was the Peace Corps director in the DR at that time. She said, we were talking, and she said, well, why don't you come to the Dominican Republic next year and we can have a celebration of Peace Corps. And we thought that was a great idea, and many of us went to the DR the next year and celebrated the 25th anniversary of Peace Corps. We all, or most of us, maybe all of us, it renewed our interest in what we'd done in Peace Corps, and we were sitting around and talking, well, what can we do? You know, Peace Corps has done a great deal for us. We learned a lot from the Dominicans. They work with what can we give back to the Dominican Republic. What we decided on is that we could give grants and scholarships to low-income Dominicans for training and education, both traditional and non-traditional, up through the high school level. And that would include learning how to do a trade, anything. And so what we did is we set up a local committee here, which actually reviewed the requests for grants and scholarships. How it works is that a Peace Corps volunteer has to recommend a person, sometimes as a group, for a grant or a scholarship. Then that is reviewed here in the DR by our local committee. Those grants and scholarships can be up to $300. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it's amazing what that little amount of money can do. It's almost like it's the other way around. I think I wrote it in one of our newsletters. The one about the black of a nail, the shoe was lost, but the war was lost. Well, the same kind of thing. It's amazing. People don't have very much money. They have ideas, and a little bit of money can take them a long, long way. And this is one of the exciting things for us. And so, in this list, this page, which you're having, it lists many of the grants that we've done or had, for example, healthcare, nurses training, pharmacy training, CPR training, nutrition training, HIV/AIDS prevention, technology, basic computer skills, agriculture, worm compost training, training on raising chickens, fruit tree grafting training, beekeeping, peanut butter making, and on and that. Also trades, beautician school, tractor trailer driving, drafting school, electrical vocational school, motorcycle mechanic training, and on and on. And then, for example, professions, accounting, fashion design, dance training, farm veterinary apprenticeship, executive secretary training, draftsman training, technology, basic computer skills, fine arts, dance, graphic arts, music courses, weaving training, hotel, restaurant management, small business training, teaching, child psychology courses, infant care teaching course, special education, computer instruction, teaching methodologies, didactic materials development, discipline and character development, life skills such as English, a lot of English now, especially advanced English, organizational leadership, rehabilitation for the blind, and life skills. Ecotourism, we started to do a lot more of that. One of the Cannoneers got a grant and we did a lot of work in the ecotourism area. We've been doing several of those. Guide training, conservation, renewable energy, coral reef protection, formation of Girl Scout troop, high school tuition, transportation, school or training, textbooks, supplies, materials for special education, books for summer school, environmental camp, art supplies. And I was looking at this morning that we've done several for Regatta Verde, which you may not know about, also something called Camp Low, and many others. The reason for this is that the idea is that you're trying to help Dominicans who don't have a lot of money, who have hopes, and what you're doing is giving them some method to do it. It's amazing. We had one of my examples I always remember. I don't know if you're familiar where Tomayo is, but you can get there a little bit better. But there was a young man who had a grant or a scholarship to study in Barana, but he had no money to get there and back. And so our grant for that one was the transportation to get there. We've had some cases where somebody didn't have the clothes that were required to go to school. So really, it's anything that a Peace Corps volunteer recommends for someone they're working with, and the Peace Corps volunteer, the person then has to make an application, and the Peace Corps volunteer has to verify that the person really will do what they say, and then the Peace Corps volunteer is supposed to follow up and make sure that it actually happened. Our success rate, and they're doing that, I can't give you an exact, I would say it's like maybe 90%, 95%. So that's what we're about. We were trying to give something back to help, and then we did help Dominicans help themselves. That's the whole idea. And what you're doing, you're going to hear this morning, two of our vicarios, the grantees, that what they are doing. And we had a situation about 2 years ago where our $300 grant allowed computer training to go, like there was, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 people. Our money didn't pay for the site, didn't pay for the machines, but it paid for the teachers. So that wouldn't have happened. It's that kind of thing. So I encourage you, as I say, if you're interested in seeing our newsletter, it's out there. If you're interested in the kinds of things that the grantees do, then do come to one of our workshops. I also want to thank FDR for this wonderful conference they put on. We're a co-sponsor, but we started doing about 15, 20 years ago. We change every 5 years. We did 5 years ago, this time, next time, I don't know, I'll be wrong, it'll be for 5 years, and then it'll be the next 5 after that. Let's see. Now I'd like to ask the Arbegarios to come up.
This is Jean and Oscar, and we all live in Bate 6 near Tamayo in Baruco. And these two young gentlemen actually make and sell peanut butter, and they are also selling it in the artisan fair. Shameless plug if you'd like to go buy some later today. And through Keynote Quisqueya, we were able to have an intercambio with another PCB working with a fabrica of women in San Juan, where they visited, and we're going to visit them in March. And part 1 of our intercambio was actually being able to redesign our machinery to make peanut butter faster and more efficiently. Part 2 of our intercambio, we're going to be visiting the women in San Juan at their new factory to investigate redesigning the process of making peanut butter, as well as new flavors, and just kind of having like an intercambio of ideas. And I'm going to let them now talk.
Buenos días. Buenos días. Somos Jean Oscar Mantequilla de León. Mi nombre es Oscar Evans, mi colega Jean Wilner. Le damos gracias primeramente al Señor, luego a ustedes, especialmente nuestra voluntaria Chloe Conto, que nos está ayudando cada día más para que tengamos éxito en este querido negocio, Jean Oscar Mantequilla de León. En este día tan significativo para cada uno de nosotros, nos sentimos felices y muy agradecidos por la invitación. Bueno, Jean Oscar Mantequilla de León, ¿qué significa? ¿Cómo surgió la idea? ¿Cómo se materializó? Etcétera.
Saben que cada cosa que existe surgió de la imagen o el sueño de alguien. Al igual que nosotros, Jean Oscar Mantequilla de León y Jean Oscar es una combinación de nuestros apellidos, Oscar y Jean Mantequilla de León. Entonces, esa idea surgió primeramente de una necesidad que hemos tenido el año pasado para entrar al liceo, para terminar nuestro estudio, y luego de tener un negocio propio. Y por medio de una ayuda de un programa de Cuerpo de Paz, Construye tu Sueño, entonces este sueño se está materializando.
No obstante, hoy estamos más que agradecidos a los responsables del Fondo Quisqueya por haber aceptado nuestra solicitud. Debemos decirles que cuando nos informaron del fondo era en el momento más necesitado. Con una parte de este fondo hemos podido planear un intercambio con Jeremy, un voluntario de San Juan. Él fue a ver los procesos de nuestra producción. Durante esta visita aprendimos muchas cosas sobre diferentes tipos de máquina eléctrica. Nos quedamos en contacto porque él no va a facilitar a nosotros la compra de un molino eléctrico, el cual nos permitirá de producir más y compramos el molino en Villas Piña. Eso va a ser un favor de Jeremy.
Y también en marzo vamos a visitar el grupo de Jeremy en San Juan para que sigamos aprendiendo uno de otro. Todas estas ventajas las tenemos gracias a ustedes por medio de nuestra voluntaria Chloe Contos. Esperamos que Fundo Quisqueya siga apoyando a otros jóvenes quienes son el futuro del país y del mundo. Sabemos puede haber obstáculos, desánimo, a veces problemas económicos. A pesar de todo, les animamos a seguir porque gente como ustedes, el país, el mundo, les necesita. Nuestro deseo es multiplicar el pequeño que tenemos y en un futuro podemos hacer un trabajo similar como Fundo Quisqueya, el Cuerpo de Paz, para que otros jóvenes emprendedores puedan beneficiar de esta misma oportunidad al igual que nosotros. Y miren, yo no quiero que ninguno de ustedes se vaya antes de probar este famoso
I don't know if you've noticed the slideshow over here. These are some of our grantees, and the young man who just talked, here is one of them. They're holding their coffin, so you might take a look at it. I'd now like to ask Tom Gittens to come up and talk. We recently started a campaign to increase our endowment fund. We've used it in the past for about $23,000 to help repair damaged schools from hurricanes, and also sometimes when we didn't have enough grant money. Tom?
Can you all hear me? Thank you. Very quickly. First of all, I want you to know that our scholarship folks there, all that you've heard, the development of their business, their entrepreneurial spirit, cost us, you, $200 each. A total of $400, the equivalent of 15,000 pesos, to help them get started. That's what Lou was talking about earlier, the significance of a small amount of money that can really help somebody develop their lives, their careers, and become stakeholders in the Dominican Republic. So every year we encourage you to help us with our scholarship fund. This year only, during the 50th anniversary, we have what we call 50-50 fund. So in addition to any contribution for scholarships, what you contribute to the 50-50 fund is for our endowment, for our reserve fund. We have used that to help relief for hurricane destroyed schools. We've used it for other purposes which are consistent with Fondo Quisqueya and our mission. And so if you want to help us build that fund, we're trying to get that fund to $50,000 right now. It's around $30,000 or so that we have in reserve for our endowment. So, and that's a one-time only. So you don't have to do that forever, but please support the foundation every year for scholarships such as you've just heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. As I say, we'd be delighted to see you at one of the workshops later on in the day. You too, Tom.
Okay, you've heard about two organizations that directly benefit individuals. The Leadership Fund selects an annual recipient, and from the Andy Hernandez Foundation, that's their mission. Fondo Q, you just heard, also benefits primarily individuals, but also some groups, as Lou described. Now, I'm going to introduce our president, Catherine Hanwell, who will talk to you about Friends of the Dominican Republic. Our mission, you'll hear, is broader and more multifaceted. So let me turn it over to Catherine, who is a member of DR21, as is our speaker.
Didn't we have a good time last night? Such a good time. So I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible so we can move along to the important part of talking about Friends, which is the Community Challenge Fund work. So John Epler's going to talk about that, but this is, I just want to acknowledge our founders. We're a much younger organization, I think very complementary to Fondo, and Neil Ross and Roger Weiss and he's gone now, Roger LaBroucherie and Steve Honore and Randy Adams and Marta Mayo, who I don't think is here. Is there anybody else from that founding group present in the room? Evans. Yeah, so you see we have an interlocking directorate. So we have people in Fondo, we have people in Andy Fund, in Friends. So we're really the mother organization, even though we were born later, 1998. So anyway, Immaculate Conception, something like that. So, we are a membership organization. We're very exclusive. To be a member, you have to have been a Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic, a staff member in the Dominican Republic, or a person who wishes to support the work of Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic. So we're very exclusive. And we don't, and how you become a member, you just simply go into fotdr.org and you simply sign up. You don't have to pay a thing. We reduced our membership fee from $15 to $0 because we wanted everybody to be connected. But just, you do have to go into fotdr.org and register. And when you do, we really do appreciate it if you would pay your 15 bucks. But you don't have to. So that, the 15 bucks helps keep our lawyers paid, our tax accountant, John Evans, not paid, everything else is just fabulous. So, okay. So it's really quite a wonderful working group. I know the Fondo people, I really believe you were founded for the purpose of getting to have a party at Tom and Sue Gitten's house every year. But anyway, so what do we do? Well, we have three primary purposes. The first one is connectedness, keeping us all connected. And this is an example. The reunion itself is one of the ways we keep people connected. The second way is through that website, which has this huge database of everybody who ever served, as much information as we can get on them. But it's all from you. You have to join us, put your information in, etc. in that on our webpage. And let's see, what else about being a membership? Okay, connectedness. Our database, our reunions, cyber news. If you're like me, you get so much stuff, and while I was working, I barely paid attention to cyber news, but now that I'm retired, I have more time to read it. But our cyber news is very informative. We try to always feature some volunteer project going on in the DR, the news in the DR, news about us. So it's really, every year it gets better and better, pictures, etc. Another of our programs is to offer mentoring services to people going into the DR. So we find, thank you, we find information, the names of people who are just going to be, I don't know what the word is, signing up, entering service in the DR, and we try to pair them with people. Similarly, people leaving service, which is what COS means. If any of you heard that in some of the workshops, we didn't know what it meant. It means leaving service, COS. So that's other. The other major purpose is supporting the work of Peace Corps in DR. Paying for things that their budget does not allow for. And that's through the Program Support Fund, where we, for instance, we purchased this year for the second time surveying equipment so that the water project people could get their community water projects off and going much more quickly. So we did that. And that's just one example of things we purchased for Peace Corps that will serve a sector of work, not the individual project. That's the Program Support Fund. John Epler's going to talk about the Challenge Fund. Let's see. So I told you how you get how you get to join. Okay, our third important goal is advancing the third goal of Peace Corps, which is bringing our experience home to our country. And my personal view is that we do that by living our lives in an internationalist way, by taking part in organizations and that serve causes that help the third world, by doing education in our communities, etc., etc. By the work we choose, we bring home the third goal. So there's a workshop on that, a couple of them, in our series this afternoon. So, I mean, it's this morning, I guess. So I want to get off the stage and turn it over to John Epler for the Challenge Fund stuff, which is a wonderful, wonderful piece of work. Okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, I think I'm going to continue the same process that Catherine started about the birthing process. If that's the mother organization, then we've got to talk about some of the kids that were born through the process. And one of those kids was the Community Challenge Fund. It was conceived in 2003 when the board accepted it as a program from a returned Peace Corps volunteer who suggested it, came up with the idea of the program itself. And so that conception occurred in 2003. The actual birthing process came with the first project in 2004, which was a water project in the northern part of the country. So to talk a little bit about the program and how it works, it's really a partnership between three entities. It's all of you, returned Peace Corps volunteers and staff, on one hand. It's the Peace Corps office and the Peace Corps volunteers here in the Dominican Republic, and it's the Dominican families and communities that we all know and love. The concept is pretty simple, that we raise money from you all, returned Peace Corps volunteers and former staff. We take that money, the Peace Corps volunteers in the community, as a second part, do an assessment of the community needs, come up with projects, work with the leadership, and they prepare an application. And the application goes to the Peace Corps staff and a small committee that makes the decision about all projects in the physical projects in the country. And ultimately the director says yes or no. And hopefully he says yes to the best projects, and those are the ones we receive. We have a small committee who sits with the Challenge Fund committee who makes decisions about yes or no. We try to be very quick. We try to turn those right around within 72 hours and not spend a lot of time with it. So once it's approved, the Peace Corps volunteer works with the community, as you all have in the past, to carry out the project, makes reports. We give grants of $2,500 or less. The Dominicans supply the labor. We found that that's a lot cheaper than hiring somebody to do the job, hiring lawyers and so forth. So essentially what we do is provide the materials, pipes, could be nails, cement, that sort of thing. They get the sand from the river. It's pretty cheap there. Sometimes they can get some permission to take down some wood from the mountains to build. And these amazing little projects come up to be really impact-making community-wide projects. We do basically water projects, latrine projects, cement floors for sanitation, so the kids don't have to run around on the floor with the pigs that go in and out of the houses. Libraries, we've done electrification of the community, and clinics, health clinics, and so forth. What I'd like, the one thing that I think all of these organizations bring together, all three of them, is that, and it doesn't happen almost, and it's rare in the United States, is 100% of the money that is donated goes to the project. It doesn't go to administration, it doesn't go to lawyers, it doesn't go to environmental reviews. And it certainly doesn't go to John Evans as treasurer, except to pass it through. So I'd like to show a video now that really speaks for itself about the program. It shows 3 projects, that 2 in the Haramaco area. The first one is a project which is for in Manabao, electrification. Secondly, the trains in La Cienega. La Cienega, there are lots of La Cienegas, but this is in Haramaco. And then finally, a water project in Villanueva, which is just north of Navarrete.
Soy yo, a cruzar la frontera, sí.
Queremos ver la sanitaria. Sí, ella tiene una que hicimos. We're finishing this is for the floor. We're finishing it right now. And here's another one. It's the same. Here. And you can see a type of seat that they have is concrete, so it's safer and people can clean it. Whereas if it's wood, it's dangerous and can eat salmonella, other types of bacterial infections can occur. Pero ¿cómo te sientes sobre el nuevo ensayo?
Bien, yo me siento mejor porque va bien, tú sabes que los vecinos lo que quieras también deben hacer cualquier cosa. Después como no vive en curso, después como vive. Todo lo que quieras.
Yeah, we did a three-day workshop here on sanitation and hygiene, just learning about washing hands properly and diarrhea, enfermedades, and people can get and how they can prevent it and treat it. So we did oral hydration as well. That was a requirement to learn first, and then they would get how to Para es muy peligroso porque casi va a salir, va a caer. So it's very dangerous. It looks like it's just like, about to fall. It's heavy, and then inside it's made of wood, and it seems like they just put up whatever they could for the wall. Muchas gracias. ¿Y cómo te sientes con el nuevo que ustedes van a hacer?
Ahora me siento bien porque llega la gente, otros baños ya, va un baño bien, un baño que se puede abrir.
Nothing in the He feels shameful because he felt bad having people come in and it's not in good condition.
En el nombre de la comunidad, de cuando ustedes están haciendo con nosotros, porque se le agradece mucho. Gracias a ustedes.
Podemos ver ya y por fin.
Dime que sí, cuando la noche se acerque, si llora por mi salón, ay, porque viene.
Sí, el parar de nosotros va a cambiar muchísimo. Porque a la hora que no tengamos la luz, vamos a cambiar mucho. Con la situación de vida que estamos viviendo ahora. Porque no es lo mismo como no estamos viviendo ahora sin tener luz, a cuando nosotros terminemos el proyecto tengamos la luz. Va a ser otra vida para nosotros. Porque ahora mismo nosotros estamos gastando mucho dinero en la cuestión de comprar velas y gas para la lámpara. Entonces pensamos que vamos a cambiar mucho. La vida no va a cambiar mucho cuando tengamos el proyecto hecho.
Mayormente se produce tabaco y también frutos menores como cebolla, ají, tomate, maíz, pero mayormente en la zona de acá arriba es tabaco. Podemos ver allá. Tenemos mucho tiempo trabajando en proyectos que tengan que ver con el desarrollo de la comunidad. No permitimos que vaya directamente a la casa. Deben pasar primero por la pileta y de ahí le damos eso que quieren. Pero así esto lo tenemos para que la gente se mantenga y con un poco de conciencia de que el acueducto tiene sus reglas. Ahora podemos usar lo suficiente para lo que sea, porque hay algo. Aquí mismo hay uno, aquí hay otro. Fue un problema que tenía más de 50 años. Con el esfuerzo de todos y la ayuda que recibimos, fue posible hacerlo. Y estamos disfrutando del proyecto.
Anything we do in the Dominican Republic really has to have loud music, so we thought we'd bring a little bit of that into it. So I guess the question is, do some of these projects have an impact? And to answer that question, we've invited the directora de la escuela en Rob Legal, which is near Nisao, where our project was done about a year ago. With a $2,500 grant from the Challenge Fund to build 3 school rooms. So I'd like to invite the profesora, directora Beaneres Paluanto to join us. Please welcome her. The volunteer that did this project, COS, so we don't have the availability of that here, but Beaneres can fill us in.
Buenos días, ¿cómo están? Eso, muy bien, gracias. Es un gusto para mí, un placer estar con ustedes en tan grandiosa actividad que es un honor para mí y para mi comunidad. Bien, yo trabajo en la comunidad de Roblegar, en la provincia Peravia de Baní. Allí tuve la hermosa oportunidad de trabajar con el cuerpo de paz Daniel Golo, que es una familia para nuestra comunidad, y se involucró directamente con mi proyecto del Colegio Psicoterapéutico Nación Santa, que allí estamos trabajando con niños especiales, niños diferentes, con condiciones especiales, donde nosotros hemos puesto nuestro empeño grandioso y también he sido beneficiado, este colegio fue beneficiado por el aporte de la institución de $2,000 para la construcción de 2 aulas Quiero que sepan que cuando nosotros iniciamos nuestro proyecto apenas podíamos tener 10 o 15 niños no más, y después de la habilitación y la construcción de 2 aulas más, nosotros podemos tener hoy día 60 niños. Sabiendo que las condiciones de estos niños y en la comunidad que nosotros estamos viviendo, ellos no tienen la oportunidad por sus condiciones, de las diferencias que presentan, trastornos algunos conductuales, de lectura, dislexia, hiperactividad. Esto surge hace muchos años, cuando yo apenas era bastante joven, empecé a trabajar con los niños que tenían dificultades en estas áreas, sin tener ningún conocimiento. Y de ahí surge la idea de ponerme a trabajar para ellos. Y grandes bendiciones recibimos cuando llega el cuerpo de Padre Daniel Galo, que se involucra en el proyecto y nos da esta luz. Fue una experiencia hermosa trabajar con Daniel Golo como cuerpo de paz. Es parte de nuestra vida, es una experiencia maravillosa. Agradezco profundamente el aporte que han tenido con nosotros. Hasta ahora nosotros estamos trabajando con los niños que tenemos allí y seguimos echando para adelante con la esperanza de que se pueda hacer cada día más. Quiero que sepan que también allí tenemos niños, ya las personas de allí están muy interesadas, y tenemos niños que vienen también de Estados Unidos, niños que viajan hacia allá y ellos van para allá. Y a ellos les interesa estar allí, a sus padres han visto que se está haciendo un bonito trabajo. ¿Qué más? Eso está, si quieren saber algo, preguntarme algo, a mí me gustaría compartir cualquier cosa que quieran saber del proyecto. Pueden preguntar. Sí. Allí todo es recreativo. Tuve la experiencia de trabajar con Cuerpo de Paz, no solo con Daniel Galo, ellos me involucraron en los talleres que daban de esta dinámica. La clase allí la damos de manera dinámica, hacemos campamentos de verano, jugando y aprendiendo. Es todo diferente. Y la intención que tengo es de que sea diferente. Veneris Polanco. Y yo soy Nani en la comunidad. Nani en la comunidad es mi nombre de pila. Pero soy Veneris Polanco, como dijo el Señor. Muchas gracias.
Just a quick note, Nani is hosting a trip to Rotary Legal. The group is going to tomorrow visit, take a look at school and have a lunch there and so forth. With those, a quick sort of announcement, with those who have signed up for that, please find me so that I can get the money from you for the trip to pay for the vehicle out there. Thank you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around, and you're going to forget that I said anything about FDR or the Challenge Fund. I'm going to come back as a different person, so you have to imagine this in your mind. So I'm doing this. Good morning. I would like to take us into the next step. The next step is you have already seen some great programs from 3 different organizations. And as part of the recommitment process, we need to think about how we can best support these programs. I'm speaking not really as a person from FDR, but a person who really has 2 special loves in their life. One of whom may be in this room, and that's my wife. But the other one is the Dominican people. And I think we need to return to look at what we can do to try to help them through the next steps of development. This country is moving. It's moving quickly. but not fast enough for a lot of people who are generationally going to be handicapped for lack of water, for lack of education, for lack of ability to provide leadership in communities. So there's a lot of things that we can do. And I personally believe that we have the power to make, we in this room, have the power to make a huge difference in these 3 programs and make a quantum leap in what we can do. And I think that thing that's missing with the Dominican people and their communities and the youth is capital. What they don't have is money to do. There's certainly the will to do a great deal of things. But capital is something they don't have, and it's something I know that we all have from the United States because we have the benefit of growing up in a society that provides lots of opportunities. So what I'd like to do is to talk to you about a way that we can do this support. Support the Peace Corps mission, to support volunteers in the communities, and to help Dominicans through this process. What you'll find in your packets, and also being passed out by Peace Corps volunteers at the tables, is something called a pledge card. And it's really a menu. It's a menu. We got together as 3 organizations and we said, how can we make this process good? And a good process so that people understand what's going on. What we've done is we provided information about each one of the 3 programs. You'll have volunteers are passing that out now, and also it's in the packet. And gives you an opportunity to make a pledge, a 3-year pledge, to have an impact on these programs. And so we're asking, on one side, there's a nice little example of how it's filled out. And what we'd like to do is to have you take a really close look at that, to think about youth, to think about communities, to think about leadership, health, all these various things that the programs are able to impact, and think about what you might be able to do. I did the math. And I figured out that there are about 160 volunteers here that came to this session. And if each one of us, on the average, chipped in $25 a month, we'd have about $300 a year. And $300 a year, on the average for all of us, would be $150,000. That would make a huge impact on these 3 programs. And it isn't that everybody's going to be able to do that one way or the other. What we often need in this kind of situation is people that are willing to chip in $3,000 or $2,000 or $1,000, and a lot of people that would see for 3 years that they could maybe come up with $300. Maybe that's all they do. That's great. So that all those pieces come together and can have an impact on these programs. So if we could, we'd like to give you all a little bit of time. The next session is going to start in just about 5 minutes. So we don't have a lot of time at this stage, but if we could take a little bit of time, think about these programs and what they've meant and how they've been able to have a great impact, and seriously consider how much you can afford. And once you figure that out, a rule of thumb is to double it. So it's a rule of thumb I always use in contributing. So I'm hoping that you'll think very seriously about doing something like that. So, yes, there's a question over there.
Well, I've been here, I've heard a lot about the documentation project. And I see these fundraising things, but I want to donate money towards the documentation project. How would I do that on this? And I'm willing to make a commitment today.
Yeah, actually, that isn't yet a program.
But so there's no way to fund it.
Okay. Okay, well, what you can do is you can create a little box to put that in. And let me just ask a quick question. Is that a program yet that we're supporting? I think we haven't really decided to do that.
So we can't donate until the decision is made. By who?
Sir, we can... Hang on a second.
I forcing the issue, but it was brought up in 3 workshops I participated in.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't you put a little check there, and then what we'll do is when the program is developed, assuming we're going to do that, then we'll put the money into it.
I thought I understood the program was developed. It's already part of the youth initiative.
Sure. Go ahead.
I would make a suggestion that we just make it a joint thing for both Fondo and for FDR, and if people want to give money for that specific thing, that it be done. I think it's a wonderful project. Yeah.
So you can just create your own box.
So we can make a box. We'll call it documentation. Everybody, does that make sense? If that's where you're interested
It's
in?
documentation for non-documented Dominicans of Haitian descent.
Yeah, let's not get too much into details on this.
Documentation for anyone who does not have
Exactly.
documentation that says they have a
Let me just point out that, of course, we want to extend this opportunity to the entire community of returned Peace Corps volunteers. You will see this announced in our cyber newsletter. Lou and Fondo Q people have already agreed, as we have, to put it on our website. There'll be follow-up information for the whole community of RPCVs and staff to have this opportunity. So the notion today, if I may, is call your attention to it, ask you to think about it, as John just said. And if you're ready to make a pledge, that's wonderful. We'll certainly accept your pledge form. If you want to think about it, that will be announced on websites and in our site as well.
Yeah, there's two ways of doing that. One is that you just hold it up like this, the Peace Corps volunteers will come on and collect it. And the other way is just outside the door to the left, there's a little box that says pledge cards, and you can put it there. And we'll be collecting those throughout the day. Yes?
Are all 3 of the organizations 501c3?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. The Indian Fund is not.
Oh, yes, we are.
Okay. All right. Answer is. Okay. So yes, we are. So your contributions are tax deductible. Any other questions? Yes. If you want to put a little box on that and you'd like to contribute it, you can do the same thing. It would be under FDR, under that little section. Or Fundo 2. Just put it down and we'll get it. We'll take care of it. Any other questions? Good. Well, thank you all.
That's a quick announcement on history. Years of continuous Peace Corps presence in NDR. I keep saying that because I think it's so significant. 50 años con el pueblo dominicano. We are so fortunate to have Aaron Williams present with us. The worldwide director of the Peace Corps, let's be candid, would probably not show up at a country of service reunion unless there was a very special connection, because he's a gentleman that has a high level of activity and a very busy schedule. Yet, he told me in May of 2010, as did Chris Dodd, in person, they would both come, and they did. I saw Aaron in September at the National Peace Corps celebration of the 50th, and he took me aside and he said, "I'm coming, I'll be there." He in fact is with us. What's important, I think, to put words in Aaron's mouth, those words that he's already uttered, he does have a special connection here. He was a Peace Corps volunteer, just like all the rest of us, in the late 60s and early 70s. He found his love here in the Dominican Republic. He's married to his wife, Rosa Maria, and it's a very tight connection that he's maintained over the years with this Bella República. I should tell you that a man doesn't become Peace Corps Director without a long career of preparation, although I guess we can say there have been a few exceptions for that. Aaron spent his entire career in international development. He retired as a member of the Senior Foreign Service from AID.
There have been some exceptions.
And he was the mission director, AID mission director in South Africa at the time when Nelson Mandela became president of that nation. And he and our nation put together a huge $1 billion program of assistance. And Aaron was the mission director who oversaw that whole effort of support to the new Republican, to the new administration, new government in South Africa. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming one of our very own, Mr. Aaron Williams.
I'm really honored, privileged to be with you, because I'm one of you, someone who served here in this wonderful country, right? Thank you, John, for that very gracious introduction. And so I'm standing between you and the closing of this event and the party tonight, right? So I'm mindful of that. I want to thank John and Catherine for the work they did in putting this together. I want to thank Art, Diane, and their staff. And of course, we got to thank these tremendous volunteers, right? I want to thank the folks from Fondo Cascade, another one of our important. We're unique in many ways. Of all the affinity groups that, Friends of Mali, Friends of Cambodia, Friends of El Salvador, I don't think there's any country that has two affinity groups like the Dominican Republic, so we're really graced by that. And of course, I want to thank the folks with the Andres Hernandez Foundation. That was a wonderful tribute to Andy yesterday, wasn't it? And it's so good to have his niece with us. Is she here today? I don't know if she's still here or not, but it was wonderful to hear her own personal recollections of her Tio. Well, it all began here, right? For all of us, for you, for me. Some of us were together, some of us met later in our journey in life, but we all share that singular common experience that it all began and transformed our life here in the Dominican Republic. Wherever we came from, whenever and wherever we served, we were all uplifted by the warmth and the welcome of the Dominican people for the Peace Corps. One of my colleagues who served here, Heather Schrank, she is the Deputy Director of Peace Corps Response in Washington. She could not be with us this week, but she gave me a message, which I would want to share with you, which I think captures the spirit of the connection we have with the Dominican people. So Heather wrote, so often when I tell someone that I served in the Dominican Republic, they ask me about the beaches or the resorts. To me, the Dominican Republic is an all-inclusive package, but not in the way that tourists think. My all-inclusive experience includes sitting on the front porch, knowing you're connected with people on a human level, and making memories of a lifetime while watching the day go by, or listening to merengue music while everyone, including the toddlers and the elderly, dance and enjoy the feeling of togetherness. There is nothing that even comes close to what I feel when I am welcomed by a warm smile and a cup of coffee by a Dominican, just because he or she is truly happy that I am with them. I recognize that tourism is an important industry, but the all-inclusive packet I want when I'm coming to the DR can't be bought. It can only be found in the community, the people, the culture, the life, the work, and the heartbeat of the community of which Peace Corps volunteers become a part. I think that really captures it all. Now we all understand that in 2012, more than half a century since this organization's founding. The Peace Corps remains an outstanding opportunity to pursue world peace and friendship and to address the priorities and challenges that the Dominican people face. Now, I'm really delighted to be with you today and to see so many dear friends. It isn't just that I feel at home. This has really been one heck of a homecoming, don't you think? We've had a lot of fun. And this really has been a time to reconnect, remember, and recommit, as the title of this wonderful conference is. You know, I remember when I first thought about the Peace Corps, I was living on the south side of Chicago. First one in my family to go to college, I had this crazy idea of joining the Peace Corps. I had heard some of John F. Kennedy's speeches, and I decided to do that. Now, I had to do it in secret because everybody in my family, my circle of friends, thought this was a big mistake. I was supposed to settle down and have a normal life. Luckily, my mother thought it was a good idea, and I needed that boat. That was a weighted boat. I needed for her to take some people off my back. So, you know, I got on that plane and I came to the Dominican Republic. And the DR, as it was in 1967, is not the DR of today. And I think no one better than Frank Moyapone put it so eloquently as he described the DR of those times that we all remember. First of all, do you remember the milk run? Miami, Montego Bay, Kingston, Port-au-Prince, and then finally Santo Domingo, right? Pan Am 436. Now there's no Pan Am, right? And nobody would think of flying to that way to the Dominican Republic, right? So we got here, we were tired, it was late, we were exhausted. We met at the airport by the Peace Corps staff. They were warm, they were compassionate. They took us to the Hotel Cologne. What a dime. Bunk beds, remember that? Excuse that. And the next morning I woke up and I heard roosters. I said, really? Roosters? In the city, I never heard roosters in the south side of Chicago. Where did this come from? So that adventure began, right? Anyway, our great staff did everything they could to orient us, to train us, to give us good assignments. It all started, of course, with the great Andy Hernandez and continued with my boss, Tom Gibbons. They did a great job of taking care of us, right? And it continues this day with talented country directors like the ones we've served, including, of course, our distinguished country director now, Arthur Flanagan. Art, thanks for all that you do. You know, our group of volunteers, like always, were committed, idealistic, and engaged. Many of them have remained my lifelong friends, right? People like Judy Johnson-Thoms, Bill Miller, Dan Mizrock, Vicki Taylor, and then later I met this great guy in Costa Rica, David Kaufman, who's also married to una Dominicana, right? The Grand Anita, where are they? You know, these are people who know my children know them. It's just been one great big happy family. So anyway, we were taken to our sites. I was in Monte Plata, and I was assigned something like 30 or 40 teachers to help them get their high school diplomas and to improve their teaching techniques. And I would go out and visit them in carros públicos on the motorcycle, of course, which we don't allow volunteers to have anymore. And everybody in this room knows why we don't, right? It's too dangerous. And of course, I had to learn how to ride a horse. Now, I didn't ride horses on the south side of Chicago. And it was hard to ride that horse. But somehow I made it through. But despite the challenges that we all face, you know, what really inspired me were the teachers that I worked with. It was fantastic. They inspired me, they educated me, they gave me a way to find out about myself that one never could have imagined. And I had great partners like Judy and Vicki and others who helped me. Anyway, these people made a big sacrifice. They gave up all of their weekends and their summers to come and listen to us and teach those courses. I mean, how many people would really do that? It was an amazing, amazing undertaking. Many of you participated in that plan de capacitación in those years. And they wanted to do it because they wanted to improve their lives. They wanted to lift up the children of the Dominican Republic and give people in the rural areas a decent education. So seeing their determination and devotion was awe-inspiring. We volunteers were lucky enough to work in that program, and we became part of their community. I loved my job, and then, of course, I ended up marrying Rosa. So that was the incredible benefit of being in the Dominican Republic. And then I got lucky again. this Peace Corps thing keeps going, right? They asked me to go up to the Madre Maestra to work up there in the new program. And I was lucky to join a small group of volunteers up there. And what happened? Madre Maestra turned out to be one of the most admired and most important institutions in this country, right? And it represents people who have graduated from there in business, government, education, their leaders throughout the country. I was part of that formative first faculty that helped create the Madre Maestra on that new campus. And of course, some of them have even become national icons, members of that faculty, like Frank, who was here the other day, who was just a treasure, as you know so well. So that is another example of the tremendous strides that the Dominican Republic has made. And whether you measure the strides and the progress that we make this country by GDP or by the number of direct flights to Santo Domingo, which are considerable, and even more to Punta Cana, right? You know, the DR we see today is certainly more prosperous and connected than the one I fell in love with many, many years ago. Rose and I have returned here many times. We've brought our sons here. We've been delighted to see this vibrant country and see the changes that have taken place here. But at the same time, there's always a question when we talk about the Peace Corps, especially as we reminisce and think about 50 years. And the question is, with all the progress that's been made in the past decades, why are we still here? Why do we still send volunteers to the DR and other developing countries? Well, you know, I think there's a couple of easy answers to that, actually. Some of you might know that every year, Bill Gates writes a letter on behalf of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And if you haven't seen the letters in the past, I would urge you to read the letter this year. It's about a 15-page letter, very thoughtful, from a man who's revolutionized philanthropy and really works every day to change the world. And Bill Gates says that right now, just over 1 billion people, about 15% of the people in the world, live in extreme poverty. And he says, this year, I'm making an argument in my annual letter for making the choice to keep on helping extremely poor people help build their own self-sufficiency. That's why we want to continue to participate and provide volunteers for the Peace Corps. I think that's a powerful statement by a man who really puts his money where his mouth is, without a doubt. Another thing that another book I would recommend you that I've read and history of people. This week I read take a look at your but the director first off back you heard about these but in the chat about the injured for still you know, further, I believe that the most in France there are people no American, no these people to serve cause that each generation American and see these very important talent organizations around. Believe these are those citizens and also starting everyone have I think possible to be part of the It's really, it was amazing to see her. Then we also met with Aaron Hopkins from the San Francisco Bay Area, who's working with the Women's Cooperative that produces dried fruit and marmalade. Because we all know that probably the one thing we get part of the best Indonesia and Nepal, which are wonderful program. I think all wherever you can. Leadership first to do the challenge of the and they are all over remote empowerment thousands of persons. And you're organizing those programs. And you're the community here we are. Man, you get so much on school on the front. What about future? What he's going to do was the next 50 years. How do I see that? President Kennedy in great sergeant every offered to build lawyers and others. The rest of the calls for history. So what we do around the world, America, nation's growth. Celebrated the Peace Corps' 50th and it's always wonderful to see how those how much he really loves you in a way that really amazing. The president is always and he's a supporter of the Peace Corps. So now we are the first great job. How do you feel back in 1961, 35% today 60% we continue to do that. So that's what you think of the world. I brought it to you. So, one thing you know, I know believe that we just have we want to you know, we know something that you one crucial all that well. That he turned out more and
we're so proud of you, Aaron. Photos from the group outside
take pictures. So I will make sure that I get and that's the question. Sir.
Part of for SOA A&D. Within CA, a lot of experiences say Michael and how do you retain the whole essence of
That's a great question. Especially in the development side. I think that the picture is that the Secretary of State, they believe in the before, and they probably do us very famous all these to bring the Peace Corps underneath the direct control of the embassy would be to undermine the value of the Peace Corps long range. And I think that philosophy continues. Every Secretary of State, by the way, since that time, when they take office, sends out that same cable, or they have that same quote in the cable. The other thing is that, and this is part of the bigger picture, as I travel around the world, and I've been in the last year, in American police officers. In Asia, people in charge of return police, but the ambassador who was a return police volunteer. But behind them, he was there, return police volunteer. And then that's what you can get all return
Hey there. I know this is a capital that's looking about how things a lot of things jamming and peace commitment on the work
So we're going to switch to So that's that we will experience and then do that. They want to volunteer so hard. But we did it. It was a what size of program we can have in Honduras and where that might be. It's obviously going to be a much more contiguous area. We probably have to do some things very creative in terms of providing transport to volunteers in ways that we had not done in the past.
I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions.
In Guatemala, you're not sending others in right now, I read.
Everybody hear that? The North Angeles America so exactly in line that I wanted to say here. So one of our managers are space without work orders. And so we look at the same and we're doing those parts and see what we're doing. Plans to provide the opportunity to continue to work.
Return Peace Corps volunteers. Also, you're involved with members in a very partisan political organization who knows how big that piece is. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, just a little bit, because as a public official, I'm going to be apolitical. I will say this, that first of all, and I'm glad you mentioned the other representatives, we have 4 vociferous advocates for the Peace Corps in Congress. And I choose my words carefully, because they are vociferous. We have Sam Farr from Carmel, California, who served in Colombia. Mike Honda, who represents Silicon Valley, served in El Salvador. We have Tom Petri, who is the Republican member of those 4, who represents Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He was in Somalia 1. He was a lawyer, helped design their first municipal laws in Somalia. And then we have John Garamendi, former Lieutenant Governor of California, who represents the Central Valley of California. He served in Ethiopia. They are incredible. I meet with them quarterly. We have a breakfast to talk about how they can help promote Peace Corps and provide more funding, work in their committees. They're always available for anything that we need, any events. They were full participants in the events. So we have that. Now, there's a new development in Congress also. Guess what? You shouldn't be surprised to hear this. There's a large cadre of staffers in Congress now who are returned Peace Corps volunteers. And they keep their eye out for Peace Corps, even with the members who are not returned Peace Corps volunteers, right? It's really a big deal. And they just formed 6 months ago an association of returned Peace Corps volunteers on Capitol Hill. We had a big kickoff with the 4 elected representatives. I was there. It was wonderful to see them. And one of the young people, young men who is one of these individuals, is now the president of the Returned Peace Corps Volunteers of Washington. And so there's a lot of Peace Corps involvement on Capitol Hill. We're not divorced from the budget battles and the attacks on foreign aid that we find these days, but Peace Corps continues to have strong bipartisan support, and I'm hopeful about that. I think we had a question.
All right, one last question.
What's the current funding of the Peace Corps? In an ideal world, what do you see that funding would be? And if you had that additional funding, what would you do with it?
Well, Virginia, the current budget is $375. Now, in fiscal 10, we received the highest budget in the history of the Peace Corps, thanks to the incredible fight of our advocates, including Chris Dodd and others, right? And then there was an election, and our budget, like the rest of the foreign assistance budget, was cut. But we're hopeful that we're going to be straight line this year. Straight line in this environment, my friends, is a great victory. You want straight line in this environment, because everybody else is facing cuts. And we're hopeful that that will be the case. If that's the case, we're going to be able to do what we want to do, invest in the things we want to invest in, like the Global Village, for example. If we had more resources, either under, on my watch or on the watch of the next Peace Corps director in the future, I'd like to see us double the size of the Peace Corps. Because I think we need volunteers around the world. We have Americans who want to serve. Every month I receive an ambassador from a country, or one of our American ambassadors who serves somewhere in the world, and they ask me one of three questions. They ask me, when can you return to my country? When can you start a program for the first time in my country? Or how can you expand the program that currently exists in my country? Every month. Even if we had incredible levels of funding, we could never meet the demand for Peace Corps around the world. So that's what we would do, and we can do it. There's no doubt in my mind we can do it.
How many members are in the Peace Corps right now?
9,000, which is the highest level in the last 40 years. But for those of you who served in the 60s, that's 1/2 the size of the Peace Corps in the Shriver, Kennedy Johnson era, okay? 1/2 the size. We're in more countries now where we have 1/2 the volunteers of that era. So we're doing okay, we're hanging in there, but we could obviously grow. How about two more questions? One on this side, one on that side, and we'll wrap up. Rich?
Hi, my name is Justin. I live in International on the border. So I'm curious, would Peace Corps ever return to Haiti? And if so, what are the barriers and challenges to that?
Well, the short answer is yes. We have been trying to go back into Haiti for about 1.5 years now. We were working very closely with Secretary Clinton's staff on a return to Haiti before the earthquake. After the earthquake, we became even more convinced. As a matter of fact, it's interesting, this won't surprise anybody in this room. After the earthquake, within 1 week after the earthquake, we had 150 former Peace Corps volunteers, all fluent in Haitian Creole, who wanted to go back into Haiti right away. I remember one lady who was really quite extraordinary. She is the chief nurse in the emergency ward in the emergency room in one of the largest hospital in Brooklyn, whatever that is, and she wanted to go back. So we weren't able to make that move at this point in time. We now are poised to go back in again. It all depends on our budget and the political situation in Haiti, but we definitely want to go back in. We'll probably go back in the north, in Cavacian. Yes, sir.
Second Peace Corps Director Jack Vaughn, several weeks ago, we saw the video, said Dominican Republic was the best program in the world. Would you care to...
I'm not sure if that last question. Always one in every crowd.
Forgive me, Aaron, I should have warned you.
I know, yeah. You should never recognize it. Well, I have to tell you that I believe, deep in my heart, that art manages the best program in the world. Captain, please come up. And also, Randy, you're representing Fondo Pisquet, right? Or Lou? Okay. Where is Lou? Okay. First of all, in the Peace Corps tradition, we can't just walk away without giving you a token of our appreciation for all that you do for us. Right? So here is you, Captain. Thank you very much. John, thank you, sir. You are that shirt with used stuff. That's right. And Lou, on behalf of Peace Corps to Fondo Pisqueya, Peace Corps writing pen, thank you, sir.
I understand that Evan Kaplan wishes to come forward.
Got it.
Thank you so much. Evan Kaplan in the room?
Thank you so much, Catherine. I really appreciate it. I wanted to present to Mr. Williams this book that Catherine Tudor and I just finished last month. It is a guidebook to the Dominican Republic written by two RPCVs from the background of being a volunteer. Katie! We're really proud of the work that we've done, and we couldn't have done it without the help of all of the PCVs here today. And as I told you, our appreciation for your work and for having been a volunteer here.
This looks like a cell phone case that was left at the embassy last night. Anybody missing a case? There's no phone in it. All right, you recognize it, come and get it. And if I may, I'd like to call Adam Fiverson to the stand.
Thanks, John. This is something that we talked about doing for a while, to recognize somebody who was pretty important for a lot of volunteers who served over the last few years. I don't want to make a new comparison, but the reverence and respect that I've heard from all of the volunteers from the early days that they've used to speak about Andy Hernandez is the way that a lot of us in the more recent years feel about a guy that just left here, Romeo Massey. And he was our director here from 2006 to 2011. We all consider Romeo a friend and a mentor, and we're really better volunteers for having served under him. I'm going to turn the mic over for a moment to PCV Phil Waller, who served most of his service under Romeo.
Hi. I remember when I got here about 31 months ago. Well, even before that, my first notion of Romeo and who he was I was, perusing the blogs, trying to figure out what's Peace Corps like in the Dominican Republic. And there was one girl who said, don't worry about anything. We have the most amazing director in the world. He makes you feel right at home. And he also has a cool name, which is Romeo. And so I remember when I got here, I got off the plane, and I'm looking for this Romeo character. And in walks in Don Rickles. He turned out to be romantic. He was champions of volunteer issues. And he took some time. Most personal can't do what they do, but he's asked about volunteer. And this is on control. And anyway, this time, and you'll be in our thoughts.
volunteers, leadership, is passion, will to I guess and the great deal. It's a
and so we want to grow because you pursue and we touch that for you. So we all and then our needs are carrying out the same thing for that very help.
I gotta take that. And Adam and Gene Erickson, who led the team of volunteers, all the volunteers who worked on the conference, stand up. Volunteers who served on me and I turned that up. But before that, here on the and who will talk about operations and
I'm happy to after station organizations. We have a lot of that we'll talk about first.
Okay, it seems I misspoke this morning when I said there would only be one colonial zone. Apparently more people have stepped forward to sign up for that. Is that correct, or are we giving misinformation? Where's Lynn?
Right here, that's correct. We moved it from 3:30 to 2 o'clock.
Okay, there's going to be 2, but the afternoon is at 2 o'clock. All right, great. This is where I probably get very emotional. I've held it together pretty well the last several days. But Romeo stole my thunder there a moment ago by thanking the volunteers, but I don't think it's too much to thank them a second time. I want to tell you... Last minute edition.
Buenas tardes, compañeros y compañeras de la grande familia del Cuerpo de Paz. I joined this reunion organizing committee about a year ago, i.e. rather late in the process. And in the ensuing year, I've made some tremendous friendships. And in addition to that, over the last year, I have seen that 3 people on the organizing committee have put in literally hundreds and hundreds of hours. I think probably no one will ever really know how much time they put in. Anyway, the rest of us on the committee took it upon ourselves to hold a secret, surely, what's the word here? Non-Robert's Rules of Order, if not unconstitutional vote, and decided to honor those 3 people, in addition to our founder, with what we hope are some very appropriate gifts and remembrances of the Dominican Republic. Will Catherine and Roger Weiss please come up and join John Evans? This is one of the few books has the fantastic Dominican photographers. The other one is on Samana. And guess I could let them fight over which one each one of them wants, but I'm thinking John Evans should have the one on Solana because he just spent a few days up there. And also, if Neil Ross would come forward, our founder, and we probably wouldn't be here today or this week if it weren't for him. So I think whatever is appropriate for these people. Thank you very, very much.
Our meeting pastor and founding president, as you talk about all three individuals and several others on the committee. Pull that back. Steve Taylor, if you're in the room. Roger, Steve Taylor, Larry Deutsch, build, monitor, and monitor value, and this bit the program really the program in Lugaron, I think, and he is the sideline video historical animated prize for all of the and I'm going to try to make all of this. Okay, so in front of you, these are the ones who organize the back and forth and about a year current volunteers, which had never before. We had to support our volunteers, but 90 people resulting really possible. That's very our group, and she stood up and said, yes, we got her down to express. We thank her. The same for my we had these presenting that it's like we had a presentation by volunteers like a brief festival. And then yesterday, remember what had happened in the past. And we had this about I talked about
and see what the volunteers in the we'll take a lead, but sponsor the artist. Invite you all. I'm invite the president. Thank you.